Hello and welcome back. Okay, this is my fourth half-hour segment. I'm alone with you, and we're going to do some vocabulary. Yes, all of my students, you included, say, me falta vocabulario. I need more vocabulary. Many people here in Spain say, my problem with English is vocabulary. Maybe, but allow me to have my doubts, because the problem that you have, probably, and that everybody else has, is the ear. Even if you say it's not true. That's your first problem, understanding well. It's easy to understand me. It's easy because I speak clearly. And I speak clearly because I'm a teacher. A teacher. I have what you call in Spanish, lo que llamáis en español, what you call in Spanish, una deformación profesional. In English, we don't say a professional deformity or deformation. However, it's true. I've been teaching for so long that I know how to speak in order to be understood. And everybody says, Richard, me encanta tu clase porque entiendo todo. Entonces, estoy haciendo un flaco favor. I'm doing you a disservice. En inglés decimos, estoy haciendo un desservicio. I'm doing you a disservice by speaking too clearly. But if you enjoy the class, then that's one of the reasons, is because I speak clearly. Now, vocabulary we're going to do today, but I will remind you, let me remind you, déjame que te recuerde, let me remind you that the problem, first priority is the ear. The second priority is confidence. The third priority is grammar, when you speak, basic grammar. The fourth priority is vocabulary. And the fifth priority is pronunciation. In that order. But number one, ear. But today, vocabulary, priority number 4. So, listen. We're going to do list number 19, book 4. And first, I will go down the list one by one. And then when I finish, I will go back and we will look at as many different terms as possible and expand, ampliar, se dice en inglés expandir, and expand on each word. Number 1, en voz alta, aloud, basado en, based on, fijaos en la pronunciación, based on, dinero en metálico, cash. A veces en inglés se dice dinero en metálico frío, cold cash. En otras palabras, in other words, modestia, modesty. Nómina, payroll, ingenioso, lleno de recursos, resourceful, vendedor, salesperson, dolor de garganta, sore throat, aburrido, boring. Bueno, depende. Estar aburrido, to be bored. Ser aburrido, to be boring. Si estás aburrido, será porque yo soy aburrido. If you are bored, probably it's because I am boring. And if you're not bored, then maybe I'm not boring. Convencer, to convince, the same. Merecer, to deserve. Estar en desacuerdo, to disagree. Despedir, to dismiss, or to fire, or to sack, or to lay off. 4 possibilities. Here, to dismiss. And if time permits, later we will expand on this concept of despido. All right? Permitir, posibilitar, to enable. Preciosa palabra. Difícil de explicar, to enable. Mis clases os permitirá mejorar vuestro inglés. My classes will enable you to improve your English. Contratar a empleados, to hire. It's the opposite of to fire, to hire. Maltratar, to mistreat. Demostrar, to prove. Demuéstramelo, prove it. Prove it to me. Posponer, aplazar, to postpone. Clasificar o valorar, to rate. ¿Cómo valoras esta clase? ¿Cómo clasificarías en una escala de 1 al 10 esta clase? How would you rate this class on a scale of 1 to 10? 3, 7, 10, 9, 11? How would you rate? Escrito rate. How would you rate this class? Arrepentirse, to regret. Oh, I regret having accepted this job. Teaching on television, it's too much work. I'm sorry. I said yes. I regret, habiendo dicho, se dice. I regret having said yes. But it's too late now. I'm here. So it's I have no choice but to teach you. And with me, you have no choice but to learn. Satisfacer, to satisfy. Yeah, to satisfy. Atar cabos sueltos, to tie loose ends. Loose ends, you tie them together. To tie loose ends. It's interesting. The expression in Spanish, atar cabos sueltos, and in English, to tie loose ends, are identical. In two very different languages, one a Germanic Anglo-Saxon language and another a Latin language, the concept of teniendo extremidades o cabos sueltos, hay que atarlos, it's exactly the same in both languages, to tie loose ends. And finally, alianza de bodas, wedding ring. I'm married. This is my wedding ring. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Are you ready? In voz alta. Aloud. Say it aloud to this camera and say it aloud to this camera. Hello, to say something aloud, to read aloud. For example, if you want to improve your speech, one trick, un truco, and a very effective trick is to read aloud. When I was learning Spanish, it was a very good practice to read aloud. Muchos años después, frente al pelotón de fusilamiento, el coronel Aureliano Buendía, etc., I read 4 novels aloud. I remember. But in Spanish, it's easy. It's easy in Spanish because when you see the word, normally you know how to pronounce it. Almost always. Solo las H's mudas is the only problem. But, or la G y la J. But in English, no. You see a word, and 70% or 80% of the time, you mispronounce it if you try to read it aloud. So if you want to read aloud, that's fine, but only on one condition. And that condition is that you find very simple books, novelas graduadas simplificadas para aprendices, and go to level 1 and level 2, elementary, only, even if you have an advanced level. And then you open the book and you understand the words and you usually know the pronunciation. And then you can practice reading aloud. Aloud, una sola palabra. Loud is ruidoso. The music. Excuse me, can you turn down the music? It's too loud. The opposite, can you turn up the music? It's too low, I can't hear it. But if the music is too loud, you turn it down. Loud. Añades una A delante. Aloud is in voz alta. Say it aloud. Read it aloud. And there's a second expression that means the same thing. Out loud. Ya son dos palabras. He said it out loud. Out loud means in voz alta. So you have two words, aloud and out loud. Basado en el estudio que tengo aquí, based on. Muchas veces hoy en día se dice en España en base a o a base de. Basándose en. Based on. Based, como basado, el participio, on. Ahora, nunca se dice based on. Se dice based on. Based on. Based on what you said. Based on the current information. Based on the report. Based on the National Bureau of Statistics. Based on the information. Based on what I know. Based on what you told me yesterday. Based on. Bay. What's the first letter in the English alphabet? A. Based on. Entonces, empezamos con una B dura. Bay, la primera letra A. Base, y se mantiene la S. Y luego, la ED se convierte en una T pura y se enlaza con on. Based on. Based on. It's very easy to remember, very easy to practice, very easy to emulate and reproduce. So, y muy socorrido. En base a se dice muchísimo aquí. A base de también, o basándose en, basado en. You use that all the time. And so in English, es muy socorrido con based on, based on this information, based on your recommendation, etc. Dinero en metálico, cash. I don't want a credit card. I don't want a check. I want cash. And I want you to pay me up front. Upfront means paga por anticipado, in advance, upfront, and in cash, cold cash. All right? And cash is dinero, cash. If you say a company has a cash problem, it means tiene un problema de tesorería, cash. And of course, we have the expression cash flow. Maybe you're not interested in finance and economics and business terminology, but cash flow, literalmente flujo de caja, cash flow is a very important concept. And it's the profit of the company, su beneficio, yeah, antes o después de impuestos, plus non-dispersed items like amortization and depreciation, provisions that really are added. That's the cash flow. But I'm not going to get into that today, all right? And the next one, en otras palabras, in other words. Ahora, hay una expresión muy corriente aquí en España. Dices, o sea, Pepe está en casa, o sea, está enfermo. Pepe is at home. In other words, he's sick again. Otra vez, o sea, que realmente no quiere. You use o sea all the time. The closest expression in English is en otras palabras. In other words, expressing it in a different way. In other words, okay? All right, modestia, modesty. To be modest, to live modestly, a modest person. Are you a modest person? Are you humble? All right? Humbleness, to be humble and to be modest. Some families are of modest means, a modest income, modesta, or modestia, modesty. I prefer modesty. The opposite is pride. I prefer humility over pride. Pride is soberbia. I prefer people who are humble and modest. Okay? Modestia. Nómina, the payroll. If you work in a company, you are a member of the payroll, and you have a payroll. Every month you receive your salary. Every month in this country, usually the salaries are paid by a transfer, a wire transfer, or a bank transfer. Es muy corriente en inglés decir transferencia vía cable, curiosamente. It's an old expression, wire. Wire is alambre. Hilo, eléctrico. Cable, wire. Cable desnudo, porque cable con aislamientos muchas veces se llama cable. All right? Wire. Now, a wire transfer is a very common expression for transferencia bancaria. And when you are paid at the end of each month in your company, most companies nowadays pay by wire transfer. And they transfer your salary. And on the first day of the following month, or maybe the last day of the month in course, your account has been credited, not debited, credited with your monthly salary. If you work for others, if you are an employee. Now, if you're self-employed, you don't have una nómina. You don't have a payroll. You are not on payroll. ¿Cuánta gente hay en nómina en esta casa o en esta empresa? How many people are there? On payroll. On payroll. Pay is paga, pagar, to pay, P-A-Y. Y seguido, misma palabra, roll tipo rollo. Literalmente el rollo de la paga is the payroll. It's very common. And payroll has basically two usages. Number one, tu nómina, my payroll. And number two, la plantilla de una empresa. A veces se dice, what's the payroll in this company? 500 people. Oh, very good. And what's the monetary payroll? 5 million euros a month. Okay, for example. Okay, and so you have different ways of using the word payroll. Payroll tax. In the United States, in England, I don't know, but in the United States, it's common to say payroll tax para impuestos sobre la nómina, not the income tax. For example, when you receive the transfer into your account, you receive your net salary, net, el neto. Maybe your net salary is 2,000 euros, for example, or 1,000 euros. And your gross salary, let's say your net salary is 2,000 euros. That means your gross salary could be around 3,000. And every month, the company withholds money. The company doesn't receive it. It goes directly to the tax man or to the Social Security people or to other entities. These are payroll taxes. Payroll taxes is Social Security, la Seguridad Social. In the United States, it's 50-50. They call matching, casando, en igualdad de condiciones. The employer pays 50% and the employee pays 50% of the payroll tax, Social Security tax. Here in Spain, the employer, empleador, la entidad, la compañía, el empresario. The employer pays, I'm not sure, around 86%, and the employee 14%. So in Spain, the burden escrito, burden is la carga. The burden of Social Security falls more on the employer than on the employee. In the United States, it's 50-50. But, it doesn't necessarily mean the situation is better in the United States for the employer, el empresario. No. Because in addition to the payroll tax, además de, in addition to the Social Security that is matching 50-50, the employer in the United States usually has to pay health insurance, seguro de salud, de asistencia sanitaria, health insurance for the employee. So probably in the final outcome, in the final analysis, it's probably similar in the United States to Spain. The employer has a heavier burden financially for the security, Social Security, and health care of the employee. You see, in Spain, when you say Seguridad Social, you're including jubilación y asistencia sanitaria, normally, okay? Social Security in Spain includes retirement and health care. Health, salud, care, cuidados, es nuestra forma en inglés de decir asistencia sanitaria. That you can go to a doctor through the Social Security system and you don't pay. If you have an accident or you're injured, you go to the hospital and you receive hospitalization and health care and you don't pay because already you and your employer, si estás de cuenta ajena, if you work in a company, or you yourself, through your self-employed Social Security tax, Seguridad Social de autónomos, fíjate cómo lo acabo de decir, un autónomo es self-employed, auto-empleado, self-employed, and that person has to pay all of his Social Security protection. All right. Now in Spain, when you pay or your employer pays Social Security in your name, you have two basic items, which is retirement and a retirement pension when you retire, and health care. In the United States, no. It's only retirement. Only retirement. So when they have matching 50-50 in the payroll tax, the employer pays 50%, the employee pays 50%. But in addition to that, the employer pays other healthcare items for the employee. So in the end, probably it's the same. Okay, the next word, ingenioso. El ingenioso caballero andante, Don Quijote de la Mancha. Resourceful. Un recurso is a resource. Resource. Acentúo la primera sílaba aquí. Recurso. Resource. Recursos naturales. Natural resources. There are a lot of natural resources in Spain. Yes. Spain is the #1 producer of mercurio, curiously. Did you know that? Spain is not #1, but perhaps #2 in saffron, azafrán, saffron. Okay, these are natural resources. Spain has a lot of natural resources. Spain had a lot more natural resources 2,000 years ago, but the Phoenicians, the Carthaginians, and the Romans came to Spain and extracted a lot of the natural resources. There used to be, antes había, there used to be a lot of gold in Spain, but the Romans took the gold. You know, the médulas up in León or in Zamora, up in that area. They extracted all the gold. So Spain used to have more natural resources, but still today, Spain is an important country in natural resources. But aquí no hablo de recursos naturales, hablo de recursos, no humanos tampoco, recursos propios, the own resources you have, okay? Yes. Y una persona ingeniosa, que se las ingenia bien y que tiene recursos para resolver los temas sin depender demasiado de los demás, is a resourceful person. Every organization wants resourceful people in which you talk to the person. Pepe, I'm interested in you helping us, and you will be in charge of this department. And Pepe says, okay, don't worry. And he goes to his department, and he works hard. He builds the department. He runs it well. He manages the people. He manages the problems. I don't know anything. I don't need to worry about the department. Pepe, my friend Pepe, is a resourceful person. Yes, he uses his own resources to solve the problems. He doesn't need to depend on me for help. A resourceful person is a person who doesn't use or depend on the abilities of others to do their jobs. They can do their job with their own resources. And if they need to solve a problem, they find the solution without necessarily bothering you, sin molestarte necesariamente para que tú les soluciones los problemas. They are resourceful. And it's extremely important to find these kinds of people, because these kinds of people are not tremendously abundant in the world, but they are tremendously important in economies and in organizations, okay? Yeah, ingenioso, resourceful. The next one, vendedor. Bueno, vendedor si es hombre, es a salesman. Seller, no. Seller, escrito seller, es el que vende algo, pero no el representante de ventas. For example, if I own a house and I want to sell it, and I contact you, and you are interested possibly in buying my house, you're the buyer, and I'm the seller. But I'm not a salesman. Soy el que vende, pero no soy vendedor. All right? Un vendedor es un representante de ventas, who's not the owner, usually, of the product or the service. A salesman, saleswoman, salesperson. Okay? Ante la duda, salesperson, literalmente persona de ventas, because now there are many women working in the workforce as well as men, and so you say salespeople. Ahora, la fuerza de ventas is the sales force, or the sales team, el equipo de ventas. The sales team, the sales force, and nowadays most sales forces are made up of salesmen and saleswomen, and when we refer to the group, we say salespeople. Okay? Salespeople, reps, representatives, dolor de garganta, sore throat. I have a sore throat. Throat. Es como lanzar. To throw. If I'm angry with you, one option is I can throw this pen or I can throw this book at you. Throw. Añade un sonido de T, throat, y ya tenemos garganta. Y cuando la garganta duele, siempre decimos, sore throat. Y siempre I have. Yo tengo inflamada garganta, o dolorida garganta, es lo que decimos. I have a sore throat. My throat is killing me, it hurts. I can't swallow. The typical sore throat. And you go to the doctor puts this in, looks at your throat and prescribes sometimes antibiotics, sometimes nothing. It depends on the problem. If the problem is viral, or the problem is bacterial. If the problem is bacteria, then probably he will prescribe antibiotics. If the problem is a virus, well, antibiotics don't help. So it's probably recommendable, if you have a sore throat that is really sore, maybe with fever, it's probably wise. Wise is sabio, pero también acertado. It's wise to go to the doctor, and he will diagnose your problem, the symptoms, and he will prescribe a remedy, and he will give you a prescription. Decís aquí receta, como si fuera de cocina. That's a recipe. And you take the prescription to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist will read the prescription and fill the prescription. Dice llenar la prescripción para entregar la receta. Okay? And with that, we'll stop for now and for today. I'll be back very soon, maybe tomorrow, for another class of Vaughan and Vivo. So, good luck with your English today and tomorrow. Study hard and help me. Thank you very much.